everyone, it's Jenny. When I first started this YouTube channel, I honestly didn't expect anyone to leave comments. I just wanted to keep the memory of this beautiful drama alive. But I'm so happy to discover there are so many fans who got hit by the weak hero truck, just like me, haha. What I especially love is that subscriber questions make me reconsider parts I never thought about or perspectives I hadn't seen before. So I enjoy reading them every time. Thanks for leaving comments. Today, I'm going to cover this question. Oh, and as always, all the audio on this channel involves very deep character analysis that might make some people uncomfortable. You're free to leave comments, but if you post anything too low quality or seriously discouraging, I'm going to block you. Of course, I know the audio and video quality isn't great and it's boring, so some people watch nothing and just tell me to stop talking nonsense. But I always warn at the beginning of every audio. If deep analysis makes you uncomfortable, don't listen and just hit the back button. And hey, if you keep leaving nasty comments on this channel, I'm gonna borrow Siyun's weapon starter pack and pull out the pen first, okay? You know I'm joking, right? Alright, so here's the subscriber question I want to tackle today. Jenny, can you analyze the relationship between Suho and the other boy again, based on subscriber comments and your analysis? Was it really more like one-sided admiration from this boy? And how did Suho actually think about him? How deep or shallow was their friendship that led to that result? Or was it completely because of their different personalities that they couldn't communicate properly and failed to build a solid foundation of friendship despite everything they went through together? Wow, that's a great question. I've analyzed these two boys through various audio episodes and blog posts, but thinking about it now, I don't think I've ever analyzed the sensitive boy from the perspective of the boy in the red shirt. So let me start with something I discovered in the script book. This sensitive boy is my soft spot, and I wanted to understand this character better, so I even bought the script book. There's a rolling paper where actor Hong Kyung writes to each character as his character. I can't post photos due to copyright issues, but you might be able to find it on other social media like Pinterest if you search. Anyway, in that rolling paper, the boy says to Suho, "I admired you so much. I loved you so much. I'm sorry, really sorry, Suhoya. If you're a fan who's watched this drama multiple times, you can understand that all that tragedy wasn't simply because one boy became jealous of his friend and reached such destructive behavior, right? So we can see that this boy's feelings towards Suho included a lot of admiration, as the actor interpreted. However, I think Suho didn't know that he himself was the ideal that his friend desperately wanted to become, or everything this poor boy both desperately wanted and violently resented. Now let's talk about the fundamental communication mismatch between these two. First, this is just my personal opinion. I think this sensitive boy's emotional depth was fundamentally different from Suho or Siyun's. Sure, Siyun is a thoughtful boy, but you can't say he's the type to make various assumptions and imagine things about specific matters like his friend does, right? But in this boy's case, just look at the Instagram follow incident. If this boy had been drinking beer with the friend he most admired and jokingly said, "Hey, you jerk, why are you ignoring my follow request?" Then obviously his fighter friend would have said, "Oh, you sent a follow request? I deleted Instagram," or "Let me download the app again, just wait a sec," and casually followed him back. Okay, so here's my analogy for this. Assuming you're a girl, if you directly asked your boyfriend, "Buy me this phone case for my birthday," he would have bought that case, right? But if you went around saying, "I think I've been using this phone case too long. It's gotten so worn out," and there's a boyfriend who has no clue what you really want. By the way, I just burst out laughing writing this part on the subway. Haha, this picture feels exactly like what I imagined from that recently released deleted scene of the two boys, drinking beer together by the Han River. So, what I'm trying to say is that these two boys had completely different communication styles. Let me get realistic for a second. The drama is set in summer 2022, right? Usually in Korea, you enter high school as a first year in March and stay in the same class until February of the next year, then advance to second year. If you and I hang out in different groups and have different personalities, we might not say a single word to each other for a whole year. I actually remember from my own school days. There were friends I barely spoke to, and some I couldn't even remember their names. If there hadn't been dramatic events, These two boys probably wouldn't have exchanged a word until winter break. Haha. But it's a drama, so they became friends, right? Alright, so how did Suho actually treat his friends? Through other audio episodes, we know Suho playfully calls himself Hyung, meaning older brother. It's such a sweet, mischievous side of him where he jokingly establishes himself as the protective big brother figure and really treats friends who entered his line warmly, always joking around with them. This wealthy boy. Well, he learned from childhood that compensating with material things shows your heart. So, he tries to build friendship by constantly buying food for his friends without reason. But I don't think Suho took this boy's treating them to food for granted like some delinquent groups would. When this boy said he'd buy bread at the store, Suho said, "What, you always buy stuff? Today this Hyung will pay for everything, just tell me what you want." Suho never used this boy for his own convenience, never took his spending for granted, and certainly never saw him as a lackey. He just treasured friends who entered his line or boundary. However, I think these two boys had different personal tendencies in how they showed friendship to each other. Suho is exactly that 17-year-old boy who reveals his emotions indirectly through wordplay, right? Even when acknowledging Si-eun, he jokes saying, "You're really a lunatic." And the way he shows friendship is exactly how men socially interact with each other. You know what I mean? Men maintain relationships and interact by providing what each other needs in mutual support. Look, Suho really protects his two friends like his name Suho, which literally means guardian in Korean. In Suho's world, friendship between boys is formed by meeting directly, going to play pocketball together, going to the game room to play games, eating delicious food together, and protecting each other's backs in fights. But this boy, maybe because of his deep, tragic background and living his whole life starved for affection, needed verbal assurance and explicit emotional recognition from the friend he most admired. But honestly, was Suho the type of boy who could express such verbal assurance and explicit emotions out loud? "Hey, I really care about you. You're my best friend." Suho isn't that style, right? He's such a typical boy of that age who isn't honest about emotions and always tries to joke around. He even said, "Wow, I feel gross right now," as wordplay to Si-eun, who brought him the oxbone soup he muttered about wanting. Now, about that deleted Han River scene. In the actual script book, there's direction that the boy agrees with everything Suho says and smiles bashfully when Suho puts his arm around his shoulder, showing how he reacts so sensitively to every action and word. From Suho, with deep meaning, but Suho probably thought he was just having normal conversation between friends. He couldn't have known the level of emotional intensity this poor boy was experiencing. Let's talk about the point of no return. Suho operates with clear emotional boundaries, and once someone crosses his line, he cuts them off completely. This becomes evident in episode 6 when Yongbin asks this boy, "Hey, didn't Suho block your number?" We can't know for certain whether Suho actually blocked him or not, but what's telling is this boy's reaction to this teasing. His terrifying expression and angry response reveal how deeply this possibility affects him. What's particularly significant is that he had never talked back to Yongbin's group like this before. This was the first time we saw him react so defensively and emotionally to their taunts, showing just how sensitive he was about his relationship with Suho. The physical violence had already damaged their relationship, but being completely cut off from Suho's line of people who matter was the psychological death blow that sent him spiraling toward his final devastating actions. Okay, so here's the thing about this desperate boy's impossible emotional needs. This boy was extremely hypersensitive to Suho's every action and word. Of course, from Suho's perspective, he probably felt that his friend hated him so much that he even sabotaged his bike to cause a big accident. Let me talk about Si-eun for a moment. Suho and Si-eun had almost telepathic understanding of each other. I think they could communicate through each other's eyes, joke styles, and comfortable silences. But this boy and Suho fundamentally had difficulty with that because their personalities were so different. However, neither Suho nor even Si-eun could have provided explicit emotional confirmation to this boy, understood his deep trauma responses, and constantly filled his affection deficit. They were just ordinary boys. Suho could never have understood that for this needy boy, friendship wasn't just a simple friend relationship, but survival itself. This boy's desperate need for connection with people he cared about stemmed from a lifetime of abandonment and abuse. Honestly, even if there hadn't been various dramatic events for this trio, well, I don't think their friendship could have lasted long term. This boy's emotional needs were too vast and specific to ever be filled without therapeutic intervention or someone with exceptional emotional intelligence and patience. I think Suho genuinely cared for this boy as a friend. But like Si-yoon, he couldn't notice this boy's deep trauma and desperate, emotionally unstable inner child. Of course, knowing that he suffered violence at his previous school, Suho immediately gave up his part-time job and said, "Call those bastards. Young will get revenge for you. Young will get you an apology." I think that's Suho's way of trying to maintain friendship with a friend. And here's the most heartbreaking scene. This boy's feelings towards Suho really can't be defined in one word. You might disagree, but I think the most heartbreaking scene in Weak Hero Class 1 was this argument between these two boys. When one said, "I even postponed my part-time job to help you. Why are you giving me shit?" The other boy said, "What? Are you trying to get credit from me? Should I pay you for your part-time work?" Look at Suho's face when he's hurt by his friend's words. Suho had big economic struggles, and this poor boy knew that when he said those words, his most beloved friend would be deeply hurt. Beom-seok, you really sigh. So to wrap this up, the tragedy of Suho and this boy's friendship wasn't just about jealousy or miscommunication. It was about two fundamentally incompatible emotional languages trying to create a bond that neither could sustain. Suho's indirect, action-based care couldn't fill this boy's desperate need for explicit emotional validation, while this boy's intensity and trauma responses overwhelmed Suho's straightforward approach to friendship. The audio is getting too long, so I'll finish the untold story in a post. Please check the URL below. See you in the next episode. Have a good day.